So, this happened yesterday, and the whole thing was so hilarious that I had to share. My dad owns the most successful jewelry store in our city. The store sells a mix of antique silver jewelry as well as more modern pieces. My grandmother was a very passionate collector of jewelry. She used to go through different exhibitions and wholesale vendors to find the best pieces of jewelry. She actually started working for one of the best jewelry craftsmen in our state. She was able to design her own pieces and actually craft them. They used to supply the jewelry to different stores and send them to various exhibitions. She also made a lot of pieces for her own kids to pass down to her grandchildren as heirlooms. My dad and his sisters all knew how much she loved jewelry. They would all save up some of their pocket money to buy her some jewelry for her birthday and for Christmas. Obviously, they couldn't afford to buy her any expensive jewelry, but she treasured all of it even more than her expensive jewelry. When me and my cousins were growing up, we would also give our grandmother jewelry. My cousin's sister and I actually pooled our money together to buy one of those jewelry making kits for kids that used to have strings that could be beaded however you wanted. Our grandmother would appreciate every single thing we made her, even though the jewelry was very childish and messy. Anyway, the point of this is just to explain how important a place of the art of jewelry has in our family. My dad used to work in a bank until my grandmother passed away. When she died, my dad realized that he wanted to continue her legacy and make something in her honor. He decided to open up a jewelry store, and he named it after my grandmother. Since he knew many of the jewelry artisans and vendors through my grandmother, he was able to build up an inventory of products without too much hassle. He even talked to the rest of the family about how they felt about selling some of the jewelry my grandmother had made. Obviously, the pieces she had made for my dad and his sisters to pass down as heirlooms would never be sold. But she had made a lot of other jewelry that deserved to be shown off and sold to people who would value it. Everyone agreed to sell some of her pieces as a way to honor those items instead of just leaving them there to gather dust. It took some time for my dad to build his store's reputation, but due to his focus on the quality of craftsmanship, authentic and certified metals and jewels, and offering a fair price, it wasn't too long before he became the most trusted jewelry retailer in our city. I have always loved spending time in the store. I also inherited a love of jewelry from my grandmother. My dad indulges this too. He lets me pick out what I want from the store for my birthday. I always save up my money to buy some piece or the other form of the store for special occasions. If there is ever something that I can't afford through the money I saved up through my part-time job of babysitting, my dad lets me work it off in the store in exchange for the jewelry I want. I typically help in cleaning the products as well as rotating the jewelry we display in the window of the store. Anyway, a week ago, I spotted a beautiful bracelet in the new shipment my dad had received from his vendors. It's a tennis bracelet made of brilliant oval moissanites set in silver. I asked my dad how much he was going to sell it for. He told me that its intended selling price was $350, but that he would sell it to me for $300. I'm saving up for a new laptop since I'm in my senior year and will be heading off to college in the fall, so I asked my dad to let me work in the store in my free time in exchange for the bracelet. He said that as usual, I would be paid in accordance with the hours I had worked and agreed. I haven't been spending too much time at the store recently because of my midterm exams, so I hadn't met the new saleswoman my dad had hired for the store. He had told me that he had hired her as a favor for one of his friends. She was his friend's sister, and he had asked my dad to give her a job since she had been fired from her previous job. She had asked her brother to let him stay with her, but instead of looking for a new job, she had just been mooching off of him and messing up his house. My dad told me that he was glad that he had helped out his friend, but that the woman wasn't the best worker, but that he was hoping that she would start to take her job more seriously in time. So, 2 days ago, I went in to work for my first shift. The recently hired woman was there, but Emma, the saleswoman who had been with us for years, was out sick. My dad had asked me if I would be able to handle her workload, and I had told him that I definitely could. I was glad that he trusted me enough to give me that responsibility. When I reached the store and met the new saleswoman, I decided not to mention that my dad owned the store so as to avoid any unnecessary conflict. I knew immediately that I wasn't going to like this woman because of her attitude. When I went into the store, I said hello to her very politely and asked about how her day was. But she just snapped at me and told me to mind my own business. I decided not to engage with her anymore, instead, just got to work. I was polishing some of the silver with the cleaning solution when I heard a crash. The woman had knocked down a pile of jewelry boxes that were waiting to be placed on the display shelves. When I went to check on her, I saw that instead of sorting out the mess she had made, she was just sitting and texting on her phone. I asked her if she was planning to sort out the mess she had made, but she just told me that if it bothered me that much, then I could just clean it up. I figured that it was better to just clean up the mess rather than waste more time arguing with her, so I started sorting the boxes. While I was doing that, I noticed that one of the boxes was empty. I started looking around on the floor to see if maybe the bracelet had fallen out, but I couldn't find anything. I was about to ask the woman if she had seen it when I noticed that she was wearing the bracelet I had set aside for myself on her hand. I was shocked to see her wearing it because I knew that my dad had kept the bracelet apart from all the other boxes for me. I asked her where she had found the bracelet, and she told me that she had seen it in a box that had been kept separately. I asked her why she was wearing it if she hadn't bought it, and she told me that the boss had told her to take anything she wanted to reward her for her work. I was shocked at her audacity to lie so blatantly to my face. I knew that my dad would never let an employee just take jewelry from the store, especially not any of the jewelry that had been set aside since my bracelet had been kept with the other jewelry that was waiting to be picked up by buyers. I also realized that the fact that she had just taken the bracelet and put it on meant that she must have been doing that to the other pieces as well. She could have been stealing from our store for weeks. I told her that there was no way that anyone would allow employees to just take jewelry like that from the store. I told her that while the owner might give employees some sort of discount, they would never give away their stuff for free because it's just such a terrible business decision. She just laughed and said that since I was a new employee, I obviously had no idea that there were different rules for her and for other employees like me. She said that she was only doing the job to help out the owner because he had begged her brother to ask her to work in the store. She said that the owner knew that she was the best employee he would ever have. I was actually shocked at how easily she was making up her lies. I told her that I was going to call the owner and verify her story. She said that she would call him herself and tell him that I was the one who had the whole mess in the store and that I was completely incompetent and he would obviously trust her over me, so I would get fired. I told her, go ahead. She called my dad and made up all sorts of lies about me and told him to fire me. When she hung up the phone, she told me that my dad was on his way and that he said someone will definitely be getting fired. When my dad arrived, he asked me to tell him what was going on. The woman started to speak, but he interrupted and told her that he wanted to hear the story from his daughter. It was so satisfying to see the look on that woman's face when she realized that I was her boss's daughter and not just a new employee. She immediately started saying that the whole situation was a misunderstanding and told me to just forget the whole thing. I just laughed and told my dad about what had happened. He was very upset and told the woman to take the bracelet off at that very moment. He asked her what else she had just taken from the store, but she just started crying. Out of courtesy for his friend, my dad called him instead of reporting her theft to the police. My dad's friend came and thanked my dad for being kind to him despite what his sister had done. He took her home and returned soon with all of the jewelry that she had taken from the store. He had told us that she was no longer welcome to stay with him and that he wouldn't ask my dad to not call the police. My dad didn't want to call the police, but he had no choice because he needed the police report for the insurance company since some of the items she had stolen were damaged. The woman screamed at me when she heard this. She yelled that I was a bitch for ruining her life because of how jealous I was of her. I reminded her that she was basically a homeless criminal at this point. Clearly nothing anybody would ever be jealous of. I'm going to be sick and in excruciating pain beginning tonight and for the next week, but even though I was extremely depressed at first after going no contact with both of my parents, I've actually been feeling better until recently. I've started working and I'm supposed to be starting college next month, and moving into an apartment with my cousin sometime before next month and August. But when my mom found out that I won't be dropping charges and I'm cooperating with the police, she told us that she was taking me off her insurance. That means I will have to stop seeing my therapist, and I cannot see the doctor I planned on seeing about how much pain I'm in on my period. Every month I'm in so much pain it feels like I'm being burned on the inside. I throw up, I feel nauseous, I'm weak. The pain makes me fall asleep. The pain wakes me up. It's been this way since I was 12. My mom would tell me that everyone is in pain on their period and that I was being dramatic. My mom wouldn't even allow me to take her over-the-counter painkillers at first. She said that I needed to depend on God for relief. She would rub my back and pray for me, but she said that if I had faith, then by Jesus' stripes I would be healed. She took me to the doctor one time for my period. The doctor said I had cysts on my ovaries, especially on the right ovary. After that, she allowed me to take painkillers, but she would complain about how much they cost, and how expensive the multiple amounts of pads, tissues, feminine wipes, and other products she had to buy were because my period is so heavy. A while ago, when I was still living with my mom, my aunt visited and ended up taking me to the hospital because of how much pain I was in. My mom came and they wanted to give me Percocet, but my mom rejected it. After I came out to my mom, she would say that God was punishing me for being gay when I was on my period, and that's why I was in pain. Sometimes she would raise her eyebrows and smugly say that cramps get better after a woman has had a baby, as a way to encourage me to marry a man and have children. She would say that that was trying to remind me that that was what was intended for women. My aunt took me to see a doctor after I moved in with her. But that doctor said that menstrual pain is normal and medication for it could lead to infertility. When I told her that I would rather not have children than be in excruciating pain every month, she said that I was too young to make that decision. My aunt scheduled an appointment with another doctor, but now my mom is taking me off her insurance, so I can't afford to see another doctor. That also means I can't see my therapist anymore. When my mom told us that she was taking me off her insurance, my aunt told her that she was literally going to be causing her child pain. My mom said that that is a sign from God and that she has been vindicated by God and started speaking in tongues, and we just hung up. She also said, "Honor thy mother and father, and thy days shall be long." Or however the verse goes. I'm sorry if that comes off disrespectfully, but the pain has started because my period will probably be on tomorrow, and it's awful, and I'm in severe pain. But I took her quoting that verse to mean, like, if you're saying my days won't be long because I'm not honoring my parents, are you saying that you're hoping my days will be short because you're taking me off your insurance? She also is refusing to help me with her financial information for college, so I don't know whether or not I can go to college after all. My credit is messed up. I've started working, but I go through multiple packs of pads every month on my period. I have to get pads, painkillers, and other things. So I'm going to have to walk to and from work for 45 minutes to an hour every day this week so that I can afford to buy what I need for my period. And I'm going to be sick, weak, and in pain at work. I know she is hoping that this will punish me, but what she has done and what she has said only makes me more sure that going no contact with them and pressing charges is the right thing to do. So, July 3rd is our daughter's birthday, and she asked for fireworks. We obliged and got 2 reasonably sized packs from Phantom. She was having a blast and jumping up and down, and a bunch of other children came up and congregated. In our neighborhood, the weekend is full of people doing this, and while she was too young to set them off, she ran the show and selected the next ones to go. Someone from the neighborhood came up initially complimenting her and us on the fireworks. To give perspective, there are at least 3 or 4 houses on every street doing this. One right next to his, and we were quite removed in a park. We've had people randomly approach us confrontationally here in the past, as the only lesbian trans couple in the area, etc. So we're both wary, but let things play out. The exchange went as such. Man, I have 2 daughters at home, and I'm wondering if we can speed things up here. They've got to sleep. I'm not trying to be any trouble, but how much longer will you be? Me. Definitely not all night, don't worry. Probably be finished by 9:45 to 10 at the latest. Shows how much we have left. Him. Well, I need you to be done in 10 minutes. Me. I'm so sorry, sir. I completely understand your situation. We'll definitely try and expedite the show. Although I can't speak to anyone else. There's people all over, as I'm sure you can hear, that are also doing this with. I'm sorry for all the distress I caused, and I'll do my best to move through the rest ASAP. It's our daughter's birthday, so we don't want to go through all of them, but it won't be any longer than 30 minutes tops. I can't really get through the box in less than 30, and storing these long term can be dangerous. Him. Well, to me, the trans partner, as he gets up in my face to spitting distance, can you speed it up or do I need to call the police? Me. Sir, I'm willing to work with you here. I need you to step back and calm down a bit, and I'm sure that we can work out an agreeable solution. What if we set up a few at once? But I need you to get out of my personal space, okay? I'd be happy to resolve it. Him. What? Mockingly. You want me to social distance? Takes a few steps back and then returns to my face. Me. Sir, I'm just trying to work things out. I'm in psychology services and I think... Him. I don't care who you are. Him to my daughter. I'm sorry in advance your parents are going to jail on your birthday. Me. Shannon, start recording. Him. Walks off and says, fine, I'll give you 20 minutes. Then your little girl is going to watch you get hauled. Edit for clarity. We began at 8:40 or 8:50, and the EP came along around 9:15.